come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart. And it's hard, you will find, to be narrow of mind when you're young at heart. You can go to extremes with impossible schemes. Then you can laugh when those dreams fall apart at the seams, and life gets more exciting with each passing day. And love is either here or on its way. Don't you know that it's worth every treasure on earth when you're young at heart? And as rich as you are, we're all much better by far when we're young at heart. And if you should survive to 105, think of all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part. You're gonna have a head start. I really mean you will, if you are among the very young at heart.
Please join me in prayer. There's only one life. That life is God. That life is absolutely perfect. And that light belongs to each and every beautiful expression of divine in this sanctuary. God is perfect, whole, and complete in form and substance. God is all-present, all-knowing, all-powerful. And we are so blessed to be made in the image of that one perfect life, to radiate that perfection in unique expressions, each and every one of us. We're so blessed to come together here today to celebrate happiness, to speak to happiness, and to find out that happiness is our natural state. And this is the nature of happiness. I'm so grateful for everyone who's come together to make this service possible, and know that everything that takes place here today will be absolutely perfect in every way, and that everyone here within the sound of my voice in this space and out in cyberspace will hear the message that they need to help them continue to express in their own unique ways. I give thanks for every beautiful light being in this space, and all of those who are listening, and all of those who are on planet Earth, and release these words into divine law where they're already done at the intersection of right here and right now by that great power that loves each and every one of us equally. I let this go, I let it be. Together we affirm, and so it is. So good to see you all here today. And as I put everything together, I was looking it over before I left my apartment, and the strangest thing occurred to me as I was putting all of this material together. I don't have a single quote from Ernest Holmes. So, which is really different. So I'm going to ask for forgiveness in advance. And I do have a lot of material from the Dalai Lama, whose book, the Big Book of Happiness, we're going to explore this month. And this week we want to talk about the nature of happiness. But first, let me start us off with some words of inspiration before I go into speech-making mode. So the first quote from the book that I love was, "Unless you care for yourself or love yourself, you cannot extend love to others." It's kind of like that put your own oxygen mask on thing that they talk about when you fly. Our second quote, "In order to combat a self-centered negative attitude, you need confidence, and for that, sense of strong self is necessary." Big difference between selfishness and a strong sense of self. And the last quote, he states, "Buddha had stated, 'None of my followers or scholars or learned should accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but should rather investigate and experiment.'" As I said, today we are in week one. We're talking about the nature of happiness. And just so happens that the Dalai Lama says that happiness is our natural state of being. Isn't that remarkable to know? I think one of the biggest barriers that we have to happiness is, according to the Dalai Lama, there's a lack of knowledge about reality. And reality is that life brings us, it presents all sorts of things. Some of those we see as good, and some of these we see as bad. And the Buddhists have an interesting take on these things because they don't practice any particular theology. So they say we look at these things, but we look at these things without any sort of judgment. And that's a little tricky because we've kind of trained ourselves to naturally avoid pain and avoid any type of suffering, even though the suffering is one of the Four Noble Truths. We go to great lengths to avoid that. And sometimes we avoid that in ways that aren't always good for us. But that lack of reality, it's just accepting the good with the bad. And we can find that balance in the spiritual principles, because what we've learned here in our way of living is that this power, this one life that we call God, is always wanting to give us as much good as we can be open to receiving. Always wants nothing but the absolute best for us. So what this is telling me is that we're at choice. We have some choice. And it is incumbent upon us to build that relationship and to allow that good to come into our lives. The second barrier that the Dalai Lama talked about was a self-centered attitude. And we can see that around us as we look, after you've been doing this way of life and practicing this way of life for a while, these things can become so obvious that it can be a little painful if we take it on and think, why is everything so chaotic? Why are people just centered in this chaos? Why are they behaving the way that they're behaving? What we know is that every person on the planet has free choice. It's incumbent upon each and every one of us to find that connection to source or spirit. Some people are not looking for that. There are others out there, when it comes to happiness, they look for it in other places. They look for it in things. whether that's toys or money or houses or cars, material things, maybe relationships, you know. And we can, with relationships, become over-dependent on them, which really isn't a relationship, you know. There have been times in my life that I've been more adept at hostage-taking than building relationships. You know, as a professional hostage-taker, wasn't really building real relationships. That over-reliance or over-dependence on other people, they're always at some point, because we're all human, gonna let us down. So it's that reliance on that source within, and that source is within. You know, if we're out there looking for things outside of ourselves that are gonna make us feel perfect, whole, and complete, we're looking in the wrong place, because the Spirit of God within is that source and supply of all my good. And it is here, and it's available to each and every one of us. And that is really good news, that is available to us. Awareness and understanding help us to remove these barriers to happiness. Awareness and understanding, you know. And happiness is really an overwhelming sense of contentment. It's not this state where we're running around giggling all the time. But it's this state of being where we have this inner confidence and calm within, where we know that everything is going to work for the best, where we know that we are part of a living source of good that is available to us, where we know that things always have a way of working out, even when they look very difficult. And so there are three ways that we really experience happiness, you know. And the one that I was talking about with material things, there's the sensory or the physical type of experience we have, where we see things, these things we experience with our five senses. The touch, the flowers, the smell of fresh baked bread or cookies, and the sight of flowers, and the sound of really great music that just makes us want to move and dance. And so the sensory physical level is wonderful, but it's very temporary. It's not something that's going to last. When people fall into any type of addiction, they're trying to feed that sensory sense of happiness. And so that can be fleeting and even dangerous and harmful in some instances. There's the mental level, where we practice leaning into faith, and where we work to develop a more lasting happiness through our understanding, through study of science of mind principles, through studies of spiritual literature. And then there's the conscious level, where we reach the fullness of our being through the exercise of faith, mindfulness, being present. And the things that we practice through faith, there are 5 of them that the Dalai Lama mentioned. The first one's love. Love for others. Love for self is a very difficult concept for some folks. Compassion. Forgiveness. That's a huge one, because that's not for the people we're actually pointing it at. It's to free ourselves from any negative energy that we have around our relationship with this person. Oftentimes, these people we're upset with have no idea how upset we are. They're sleeping fine while I'm tossing and turning at 2 a.m. plotting their demise. So that doesn't work very well for me, and it doesn't affect them. And what am I hanging on to? Because the thing that we learn here is that we're all connected. Oneness. We're all one. And 2 of the things that are running rampant in American society anyway is this notion of separation and duality. Us against them. This or that. How about yes and? Yes and is how we like to do things here. Tolerance. That seems to feel like it's in short supply some days. but it's only a short supply if I'm not willing to offer it up. All of these things that I mentioned, and contentment, all of these things are things that we can find within. And if I'm looking for that, I need to try to mirror that or try to put that out into the world, regardless of what anyone else is doing. So the other thing that Dalai Lama pointed out is that we work with the law of cause and effect, whether we're doing that from a spiritual place, as we do here in Science of Mind, or whether the Buddhists in a non-secular type of way, we're looking at cause and effect. What am I putting out into the universe? What am I offering to others? What I offer usually comes back to me. If I'm not offering good things, I'm inviting things that aren't good to come back to me. So, this nature of reality, it presents us with pleasure and pain alike. So, John and Lynn St. Clair Thomas said, "Be open to your happiness and sadness as they arise." This is what mindfulness practice can help us do. It can make us aware of what's going on, not just mentally, but emotionally. It's interesting, some of the emotions that can turn up when you're sitting on the cushion, I don't recommend watching the news before you sit. I don't think it enhances my sit. Our well-being and happiness as individuals, and this is found throughout creation, the well-being of the greater group, whether we're talking about human beings or other creatures in God's universe, that well-being, we depend upon one another. It's that interdependence, that connection. And what separates humans is this human intelligence with which we approach this. This sense of community. It's very basic, very biological, this need to connect and be a part of something, And we have a sense of unity and community that we can cultivate through compassion and through affection. This is what elevates the human creature above some of God's other creatures. So the other piece of reality is this constant change, this thing we call change. Oh, that's something we don't always embrace. But Lao Tzu says life is a series of spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward, whatever way they like. It takes a lot of energy to try to bend things or other people to the way that I would like to see them function. I don't have that responsibility. I don't have that power. And when I accept and allow life to flow as it does flow, I have an opportunity to reduce the level of stress. Definitely clears time on my schedule because I have less to do when I'm trying to manage others. It just doesn't work very well. So again, we're at choice. And Gita Bellin says, experience is determined by yourself, not the circumstances of your life. What do we do when tough things show up? What I've learned to do since I've been in this community and for many years is to go find some support. Go within and ask God, but quickly go get some support from some closed-mouth friends to check my guidance, to make sure my guidance isn't wishful thinking, to make sure my guidance is aligned with reality. And because, as I said before, as a community, as a group, as connected expressions of the divine, we work together better. None of us is as smart as all of us, as I like to say. And we come together, we can accomplish a whole lot more as a group, working to purpose. And it's important to work to purpose. And this is a vital piece of happiness. So what is my purpose? What is mine to do? If I'm experiencing a level of discontentment and discomfort, that's probably a clue that something somewhere inside me needs to shift. For a long time, that default was something around me or outside of me needs to shift, and that's just not the case. But it became a habit to try to shift other things, you know. So I'm working outside of that and going within, because all of these choices, all of these answers are within. And we can find them through that mindful practice, through being a service to others, through building communities. This is what brings happiness. So how do we train our minds and manage our focus? Well, we practice love. Conscious practices powered by faith. We practice love. Loving kindness is something that we can do in our morning meditation. Prayer. Prayer is a pretty powerful thing. We do a lot of that around here because it works. And prayer is a very useful tool when I find myself in not the greatest mind state to help me release these things, to get me grounded back into the truth of our being, the truth that there's a loving God at the center of everything, and that all people, all of us, are basically good. That's an interesting thought to try to keep in mind if you happen to be watching the news. All of us are made in God's image. Therefore, basically good. Now, the big nature of faith is to trust these things that we can't see. And maybe in the case of some people or some incidents that take place, we can't see the good in it. It's just no good in people dying through famine and war. But am I going to live there? Am I going to live in the space of things that I can't control? Or am I going to recognize that there's a power at the center of everything, and that all of us have free choices? And that while I can't control a lot of things taking place around me, I can ask myself what's mine to do, and how can I make this world a little bit better for a few people? What can I do about what's within my hula hoop? And focus on that good. Meditation's a pathway for building and developing understanding and awareness. So it starts with managing my own emotions, with my own state. Do I need to buy into all of the negativity that I see floating around? Or can I see it and not judge it? Just kind of step away and say, I would like to do something a little different, a little bit better, to make things a little bit better for the people I care about. What can I do today to make something a little bit better for somebody I haven't even met? What can I do to cultivate this state of happiness within, regardless of what has taken place around me? So persistence serves us well here. You know, one of the really hard things to deal with in my character is this judgment. I can get judgmental at the snap of a finger, and, you know, if I'm assuming that folks are doing the best they can, then it's a little bit easier to be more compassionate, a little bit more tolerant of what others are doing. They're doing the best they can. That might not be very good in my estimation, but I find for me that when judgment creeps up, as it frequently does, is to do my best to get curious. Why does that person do that? Or why do they think that way? What could possibly have happened that pushed that person in that direction? I can't assume that everybody behind the wheel of a car is a maniac that cuts me off. Are they rushing to a medical emergency? Are they themselves in crisis? So to put some loving kindness and a desire for them to get there safely and for all to turn out well and for Spirit to look after everyone, if I can focus my thinking there, it certainly dismantles road rage. Road rage is very unpleasant. It's more harmful to me than it is to the other drivers. And I haven't been driving long enough again to be angry. I'm just grateful to be back on the road after many years and just kind of take my time, give myself extra time, and, people do interesting things. We do interesting things in this human experience. And so how can I approach things? How can I be mindful? How can I be thoughtful? The meditation, that exploration to learn how my mind ticks, learn what sort of things kind of set me off, learn to pull the plug on those things when they crop up, because they're going to crop up. Yeah. None of us in the room, I love all of you now, but I don't think any of us are in any danger of being canonized before we, and, so we're going to have these human moments. But it's this awareness and understanding of how I tick is going to do a lot to help keep me on the straight and narrow, so to speak. So Socrates says, define yourself, think for yourself. And in the Dhammapada it says, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow as your shadow, unshakable. Where do I want to point my focus? This is very important, especially when I'm looking around me, because it's not about him, her, them. It's always me that's got to become different. That's both good news and bad news, depending on my state of mind. But I can change that. Stop and pause and get present and just go within and get connected with that power and recognize my connection. When I point a finger, I'm trying to separate myself from whatever it is I'm pointing at. I'm not separate. I'm a part of this creation. So are the other people that I come in contact with. Community building. We can build a community, and that starts not just here at New Dawn. We start within. I can start within, and it's my job to start inside. That's where community building begins. We recognize that duality and separation are illusions that are not part of the great reality of being. That's a thought that I need to embrace. When we surround ourselves with others who seek to live in their divine purpose, we garner the needed support to live fully ourselves. So it's being like-minded of like spirit. We come together and we ask, as a global community, what can we do to make a world that works for everybody? That's what Centers for Spiritual Living asks. We ask that question for the community of Aurora, for the organizations in Aurora. We ask that question for one another and for different families and people we serve. How can we what's in our power, what's in our hula hoop to do that can make things just that little bit better for others. We can't stop the Israeli conflict. New Dawn doesn't have that power. But we can certainly do things to help people go to work, have the dignity of living somewhere, letting go of any past transgressions they may have had, which is what Second Chance Center is all about, and see these folks as unique expressions of the divine who want a hand up, not a handout. More of God's children everywhere. And we, as a small community, we're a mighty little group. We've done a lot of really cool things as a group. And there's more. And I hope to see some of you folks next Saturday as we talk about how we can put these things into action now that we've talked with some of these folks about what they need. And it brings happiness. The smallest things that we do can bring happiness to other people. If you don't believe that, just keep a bottle of water in your car, and the next time you're at an intersection, give a homeless person a bottle of water. It feels like, and it looks like, and the response is like you're handing them a gold brick. And it's, it just doesn't really cost that much for us to be thoughtful in these sort of ways. The cumulative impact of small acts of kindness can build a storehouse of happiness for us. These are things we can turn to and remember that. We have that power. We have the power to make a difference in a small way. It doesn't have to be some huge, grandiose act. Just the smallest things. Being a part of something bigger than ourselves gives us the ability to maximize the gifts we were given. Spiritual arithmetic's a little different. When two of us get together, we can do the stuff that it takes 3 people to do. If 6 of us get together, we can do stuff that it takes 9 or 10 people to do. And it continues in that way. Because Spirit has a way of bringing us together, and each one of us with our own gifts can maximize that and really do a whole lot of good stuff. It's really good. And so, for some people, a lot of these ideas are new, some of them aren't. But it's facing change. We're always facing change. And so I like to quote that brilliant artist, Unknown. There's another one called Anonymous. I tell you, those are 2 really smart people. Unknown says, you can't discover new oceans until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. Is there something that's kind of calling me that I'm just not stepping up to? That restlessness, irritability, and discontentment that has a way of showing up that's telling me that something needs to shift. Maybe I'm not doing my part. Maybe there's something a little bit more that I could do. Maybe, and here's one that's not too far-fetched, I'm spending just a little bit too much time thinking about myself. And the cure for that is to go do something for somebody. What a wonderful thing. If I'm obsessed with something that's going on in my life, what can I do? Can I pour coffee? Can I go have a conversation with somebody who's downtrodden and just struggling in his life? Yeah. I had a chance to do that, to go sit with someone that yesterday that is having some challenges, and just, the time just kind of melted. I was going to sit for an hour, and we ended up talking for 2. And I had to go get some breakfast because I was approaching 1:30 in the afternoon. But it was nice, and I don't know, that man that I spoke with had some challenges. And I don't know if he's going to do what he needs to do. He does, I had a sense that he knew what he needed to do. And I offered to speak with him. I gave him my phone number and offered to speak with him. Now, whether or not he's going to take me up on that opportunity, I don't have a clue. A lot of times I've made that offer over many, many years, and people have not taken me up on that. But when I left that room that I was sitting and talking with that man in, I felt pretty good about my life, about living, about the world. And then by the time I got to Colfax, a maniacal driver cut me off. But hey, 2 minutes of happiness and feeling at one with the universe is better than none, because I had none for many, many years. I was at the whim of others, couldn't reach my own happiness. So what happens when we get together and we become a community and we work as a community to make the world a better place? Gita Bellin says, the impossible is possible when people align with you. When you do things with people, not against them, the amazing resources of the higher self are mobilized. We get an extra boost. We get a booster shot. We are in there doing good things for other people. So this happiness is our natural state. One of my favorite books says that, we're sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. That sounds like a good plan. There's no dogma tied up in that. That's just, let's go out and live and recognize that oneness. So I got 3 invitations for you for the week, just to look at getting through. So make some time this week to get curious about what takes place in your mind. What brings you happiness? Are there things that you're avoiding? Is there a new way for you to expand that you kind of been putting off? The second invite is to make a list of 3 things that bring you joy and add at least one of them to your day. If it brings you joy, why not do it? Why not do it? And the third one is a really fun one. It says, do something kind for someone this week without letting them know you did it. Mm-hmm. And don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody that you did this either. Because that joy, that inner joy is a personal joy. If I'm running around telling people every good thing I do, then I'm just, yeah. So that's a tricky one. That's a fun one. If you can set out for that third one, that's really fun. So our last closing thought is that the most effective way to achieve right relations with any living thing is to look for the best in it. Forget about all of the bad things we see. Look for the best in it, and then help that best into its fullest expression. J. Allen Boone. We may not be able to do that with everybody, but if we set our minds to doing that, our relationships are going to be a lot better, I think. Please join me in prayer. We're very thankful for the opportunity to become more aware and understanding of how our hearts and minds work, and for all of the beautiful tools that this way of living give us to cultivate that awareness, to be in our natural state of happiness, and to accept the good that Spirit has in store for us, to be open and to allow happiness, peace, joy, harmony into our lives without pushing away pain, grief, or sorrow, or any of these other things, knowing that all of these things are fleeting and that we are at choice, that the Spirit of God within is the source and supply of all our good. And we know that as individuals, community begins inside and spreads out into New Dawn. And we spread and share this good within each and every one of us, with this community, with the city of Aurora, with all the people in our lives, everyone we come in touch with, who are one with us, our brothers and sisters, our greater family in the larger world. We are open. We are free. We are happy. We are grateful, ever so grateful, for this perfect life that permeates all creation. I release these words into that divine law that knows how to mold, make, shape, and create all the good there is, everywhere, all the time. I let this go. I let it be. Together we affirm, and so it is.
Russell, seriously, the light of who you are makes us all shine brighter. Thank you so much. Yeah. We're all thinking about happiness. One way I know we can't go wrong is to sing some sunshine songs. And as always, if you know it, you can sing along. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Here, all right. Little darling, it seems like a long and very cold winter. Little darling, it seems like years since we've been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I said, it's all right. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just let your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can you hear that pitter pat? Each happy step is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with my blues on parade, and I'm no longer afraid. This rover crossed over. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. Part of the sad feelings, they've disappeared. I can see obstacles in my way. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Sing it again. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It helps when I play it right, doesn't it? Here we go. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue skies. understand my ups and downs. There you were, with sweet love and emotion, deeply touching my every emotion. Gotta stop and thank you, Spirit. I gotta stop, yeah, and thank you, Spirit. Go! How sweet it is to be loved by you. Yeah, how sweet it is to be loved by you. Ooh, and it's a new dawn, and it's a new